Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
I was visiting with an old friend the other day, and we were talking about exercise, and he said, I didn't make it to the gym today. That makes 5 years in a row. Morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot. Come on, Patriots. Be proud of our country. Call in with our pledge. Good morning. And a good morning to you on a Wednesday, March 6th, and here we go, off and running with Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations with a big spring tire sale going on right now. And along with some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, let's go to the phone line and have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
My friend.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In about 15 minutes, I'm going to have a story on here that's going to make you tense up like a coiled spring and want to hit something. So stay tuned. I'm going to probably ruin your day.
Okie dokie.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much. With the pledge being said, that means that right now we got to get a weather forecast on here. I checked with Wheels earlier this morning. Gina's ready to go, and we're going to have the weather by K&R Rental. 256 south, 600 west of Hayburn, right there on the Burley-Paul Highway. I mean, when you're going down the Burley-Paul Highway, look at their huge front yard, and it's just chock full of all the equipment that you could possibly need. They've got all the best tools and equipment for you, and if you're not sure what you need to finish a job, call them, ask them. They'll tell you. 678-3122, K&R Rental. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Rain showers and the possibility of a thunderstorm. Here's a look at your weather forecast for this Wednesday. We are expecting rain showers off and on throughout the day. A possible thunderstorm or two in the afternoon hours. We are expecting a high of 49. Winds out of the east-northeast at about 10 miles an hour, switching to the southwest by this afternoon. Gusts as high as 24 miles an hour. Tonight, those rain showers are going to continue. Slight chance of snow showers, especially up in the higher elevations. Expecting a low of 35. 30% chance of rain showers for tomorrow. Mostly cloudy skies, high of 46. And then by Friday, possibly some snow. Expecting a high of 36. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zebedee Ranch.
Oh, no, I don't want any more snow. I don't want any more rain. I want to see 65 to 70 and sun, but it doesn't look like we're going to get it. Weather forecast brought to you by K&R Rental. Roger and the crew, they get there early in the morning to serve you with the best of tools and equipment at 256 South, 600 west of Hayburn on the Burley-Paul Highway. The number to call, 678-3122. Wow, what an action-packed program this morning. Dave Bego at 9:06. Sarja Sangari, CEO of Near East Center for Strategic Engagement, is going to be on at 9:30. Dr. Michael Busler from New Jersey is going to be on the air at 10:06 talking about the complete idiocy of the New Green Deal. And then Daniel Buttafuoco is going to be on talking about the attack on Christianity at 10:30. So we got a lot of things cooking this morning. Speaking of cooking, and I mean they're cooking for you 24/7 over there at Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley, and they've got all the best of breakfast, lunch, dinner, dessert, everything. The menu is phenomenal to look at, and then pick one out, and good eating at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner. Yep, the location again, 611 North Overland in Burley, with the nicest of people serving you. And don't forget, they've got another location in Twin at 291 Pole Line Road. You stop in. It's the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch, Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner, 611 North Overland in Burley. I also want to take just a moment here to say a big shout out and a thank you to Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. They are really supportive of this program and supportive of you, and they have all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs. But above that, they've got people that really know their products and can help you. Please get a hold of them today at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. They're open 7:30 to 5 Monday through Friday. Ramsey Heating and Electric, where the number is 678-0459, and they provide warm winters and cool summers. Before I get to the main story that I wanted to talk about this morning, you can't make this stuff up. And you got to call it what it is. Stupid, dumb, and ridiculous. I stand behind those words. Thanks to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and her absolutely off-the-wall, dumb remarks, nearly 30% of Americans now believe, listen to this, nearly 30% of Americans now believe that couples should consider the effects of climate change before deciding to have a child. Oh, my goodness. But now here is a statement that is the mother of all statements of stupidity. Listen to it closely, and I'm sure my audience is sharp enough to pick up on it. It's a total oxymoron, which really fits Cortez. Listen to this. Cortez said, the impact of climate change on future generations, make sure before you have a child and make the decision to have a child. Now think about that. The impact of climate change on future generations. Well, if they're trying to talk people out of having children, there won't be future generations. I mean, the idiocy and incompetency of the left is absolutely astounding. And they're demonizing, in this story that was sent to me by the Daily Caller, they're demonizing having children. As a matter of fact, environmental activists have rallied around Cortez about calling for a stop on having children, and they're calling their group the Birth Strikers. And then they go on to say something so totally dumb. Our planet is in a kind of collapse. The natural world is collapsing around us. Really, I didn't notice that. And that's actually happening right now, they said. And I'm so disappointed by the response by authorities to this crisis, and so freaked out by everything that I've read. I've basically last year come to the decision that I couldn't bring a child into this world. Well, if I was a child, I wouldn't want you to be my parent. This is the incompetency and the total stupidity of the left. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Hello, Joe.
It's the Yummy Man with the Burley Senior Center menu for today.
All right.
We're having shepherd's pie. I don't know what that consists of, but if Deb does it, it'll be good. And mixed veggies and fruit cocktail and apple crisp, a yummy apple one.
All right. It's going to be yummy apple crisp. Now, you can't, Joe, what's the matter with you, man? You can't have apple crisp without a huge, absolutely large scoop of vanilla ice cream.
That's like a winner right there.
All right. Well, take care of that for us.
I'll talk to Deb about that.
Okay. Thanks,
Never
Joe.
hear from me again, that she wasn't for it.
Joe, God bless you, the Yummy Man over at the Senior Center. Thank you on Oberlin. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. I love that man. He's a good guy. Joe Taylor, thank you very much. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. What my concern is, and I think you and I need to talk about this, and the next story is just absolutely... When I heard about this at 4 o'clock this morning, I about spilled coffee all over me. But the left is absolutely letting some of these people that have the IQ of a coat hanger go out and say and do the dumbest things to get the press and the media behind them. And then, with a public that sometimes just absorbs the news as, well, this must be gospel, the Democrats said it, they buy into this stuff. It really, really is starting to scare me. Don't forget Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Hello, Nick Greenwell and all the top physical therapists there. And boy, they know their business. I know these people. I trust these people. I have gone to these folks, and I'm going to start up again next Tuesday. They are the best at what they do at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. The number to call to make an appointment to let them help you get back to being you, 678-1191. I'll repeat that, 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, the best. Oh, by the way, before we get into our next story, I want to say that tomorrow we're going to be visiting with a new sponsor on our program, and that's Rain for Rent. We're going to have the business salute tomorrow. Jake Spalding's going to be on the air with us, and I urge you, it's irrigation time. At least it's time to think about it. Yeah, I know, with snow and ice and everything in the forecast. I know, but it's right around the corner. And Rain for Rent, a Reinke Diamond dealer, and believe me, they have the industry's longest warranty. You check it out today. 8 years, 16,000-hour gearbox warranties, dedicated sales and service staff that really know irrigation. And they really want to help you. At Rain for Rent, at 134 South 600 West of Paul. Number to call Jake and the crew, 438-5065. All right, hold on to your hats, folks. This story... And I have a copy of everything that I'm talking about in print. This story is going to make you think, how low or how much lower can mankind get? Just about the time you thought, nope, mankind cannot get any lower in the gutter. Au contraire. We have people come out and surprise you with new all-time lows. Right now, coming out this month, as a matter of fact, on the 20th of this month, is a new comic book that's going to be released during Lent that depicts and portrays Jesus as a killer. I tell you what, when I read about how this comic book was put together, I just absolutely wanted to punch a wall. There are two people that have put together this comic book, Joe Casey and Benjamin Mara, and they characterize Jesus as a killer who beheads his enemies. Now, especially at this time of the year, going into the season of Lent, today, Ash Wednesday, starting Lent, and Jesus Christ being nailed to a cross on Good Friday to die for our sins. And then we have these two, there's not even names that I can use on the radio to describe these people, that have started a comic book that depicts Jesus as a killer. I am going to be following this, and before I take this call, I'm going to say this, that if any store in this area is low enough, vile enough, and stupid enough to carry that comic book, I want to know about it. I want somebody to call me, and I will personally go in and buy up every copy and get rid of them. This is absolutely insane. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. Your stories you just struck on, one side can say, well, it's freedom of the press. However, if it was turned around, so Jesus was the kind, pleasing person that he is, how many people would throw a fit over it?
Well, let me reverse it one more time to you, Riley. What would happen if these two nincompoops that started this comic book did this comic about Muhammad, a Muslim leader?
That's exactly what yes, exactly. And they would be persecuted and hate-mongering, and they're racist, and blah, 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 and whine and cry and spill your milk and throw a tantrum. This whole thing about attacking Christianity is not just to take away our freedom, but our freedom of our soul to do what we want, and it's terrible, and it's just another chink. And I hope people, Christians around and who love and know God, will teach their kids that this is wrong.
I hope so too, Riley, because I've got a copy of some of the pictures that are depicted inside this comic book, and I guess he's gone, and Riley, I appreciate your phone call, I really do. But this is the most despicable thing I've talked about in a long time. One scene in the comic book, that's so ridiculous to call it a comic book, in this filth, depicts the Son of God slicing enemies' heads off, which are discarded in a blood-soaked pile on the floor. I want you to continue thinking about this when you attend Lenten services at your church, and while you observe Lent and eventually Easter, and think about these two absolute heinous individuals, Joe Casey and Benjamin Mara. I know that they have the right, with our freedoms in this country, to do this, but I also have the rights to go to the stores, buy up every single copy, and then burn them, which I will. I promise you that. Your thoughts on this? This is, it's almost too gruesome and too vile to even talk about. Your thoughts, please. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I got to unclench my fists. While I'm waiting, I want to remind you on Mondays, we give away a dozen cookies to Sophie's Chatterbox at 530 East Street in Rupert on the Square. Oh, delicious bakery. All the cookies, pies, and the cakes, and the wedding cakes. Beautiful wedding cakes. And they also have an outstanding restaurant. You better get in there and enjoy the food at Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street in Rupert, serving you. Really good folks. Oh, as I mentioned earlier this morning, I think I did, that Ark Animal Hospital is going to be represented tomorrow on our program with Dr. Bill. Dr. Bill's going to be on at 10:30, and he's going to be talking about a disease that could be transmitted from animals to human beings that really is rearing its head, and we've got to talk about it. And if you have any questions, don't forget about the best of health care for your animals. Be sure and call Ark Animal Hospital at 750 21st Street near Connection Credit Union in Hayburn. The number to call and ask and make sure your animals stay healthy, 678-1177. That number again, 678-1177. They're a mixed animal practice, large and small. They take care of them all at Ark Animal Hospital, where they have the warm hearts for the cold noses. I'm surprised, and I say this, and I really am, I'm surprised of the lack of calls over this disgusting, absolutely disgusting comic book that's being released during this month of Lent. And they don't care. These two individuals are as cold and as inhuman in their thoughts about Christianity and religion as I've ever seen and heard. They denigrate the Bible. They absolutely denigrate Jesus. And they don't care. They're planning on making this comic book a big event for them and for the future. What are your thoughts about this new comic book that depicts Jesus Christ as a savage killer? Your thoughts, please. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'll take calls, and then also, on a related subject, I've got something else that's equally as dumb, and we'll get into that in just a moment. Caller, you're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. Did I hear you say you'd go in and buy up all of those?
If they show up on bookshelves, I'll tell you what, I've already told Deanne, I will take money out of the company coffers, my company, and go in and buy them and burn them.
Well, I wouldn't burn them. I would take and you let me know if you do that. You give those things to me, and I'll go to every church within here in Twin Falls and wherever, and I'll give every member or every leader of that church that comic book, and then with a note that this was the store that you bought it at, and there's only one thing, and I know a lot of people are against this, but there's only one thing that these people, and that's demonstrating. And we've done it before with abortion. And if they're selling that comic book, I guarantee you we'll have some people in front of that store.
You know, Dwayne, I like your idea better than mine. I'll tell you what, I just absolutely sit in the morning at 4 o'clock when I start doing the rundown for this program and the information that I'm going to put on, and I just am astounded as to how anti-Christian, anti-religion, anti-moral value that this country's going. It just knocks my boots off. I can't believe how low we've gone.
Well, these people, they don't listen to anything other than money. And Soros has got money, and all these, I cannot understand why these billionaires are going liberal. But the only thing that the common people out there are listening to nowadays is the money. What's it going to benefit them? They could care less about their future or anything else. They think their future is a pocket full of money.
I agree with everything you said, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to do that. I'm going to stand behind what I said, because I hope there's not a store dumb enough to sell those comic books if they come out on the market for them to put on their shelf. I will do exactly what you said, but then I'm going to carry it a step further. With you and you wanting to pass them out to the various churches and everything, then we've got to start making demands to the pastors and the church leaders and the ministers to start creating and writing sermons to help fight this garbage.
Right, and that's another gripe of mine. The churches aren't even mentioning what is going on in the world. They're busy giving the gospel, which is good, but people need to hear every day what is going on today.
That's absolutely. And then urge the congregate members.
And most of their sermon should be helping the people learn how to fight against what is going on.
Amen.
What's going on is exactly what the Bible was teaching that it's going to happen.
Yeah. Dwayne, you're spot on. I'm going to take your recommendation. I like it better than mine, and we're going to do that. Thank you for your call. I got another one waiting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's a great idea. Caller, just stay there for one little minute. I'll be right there. I want to remind everybody about Berry Equipment and Rental, and they are located at 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. And, of course, with old Juan, yeah, he's a young man, sharp young guy, and he really knows his stuff. He recommended to the whole company, hey, let's put everything at 0% interest for 48 months. And the company said, hey, that's a good idea. Well, right now that serves you. Well, you get in there and check out all the great equipment sales and the retail rentals, everything right there at Berry Equipment and Rental, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin, and the Nampa location. Don't forget they got all the Bobcats. And by the way, they can teach you how to run the equipment too at Berry Equipment and Rental. Stop in and see them today. Caller, thank you for your call.
Hello, Zeb. You know, it's interesting that it seems like, and I'm sure there have always been people through history that do this, but it seems that now there's a crowd of people in our country that believe weird stuff. The earth is flat. The moon missions didn't exist. They were done by actors, and so forth, and so on, and on and on and on. And they will pick up stuff that's weird, and they seem to want to follow anything that's weird. And that is so unfortunate because, you know, they don't have any sense.
Well, I would say that, wait a minute, Linda, I've got to maybe alter my opinion with yours somewhat. I don't look at people not believing in something like, well, they didn't do this or we don't believe they did that, etc. But these people are so absolutely involved with hating Christianity, hating God, hating Jesus. And that's a completely different persona, I think.
It is, but I wonder if they're so willing to pick up on a cause.
I don't know, but when you start something, how could you sit there? Let's say Monday morning you go to your office, you and your graphic arts department leader, like they did, and they say, well, let's develop a comic book that we can put on the shelves during Lent to really hurt the Christians and denigrate Jesus, and we'll call it Jesus Freak, and we'll make Jesus our main character in the comic book, and he's a killer. How does anybody get that low? Help me on that. I can't understand it.
Oh, no. Well, I do know. There's a lot out there that's just waiting for us to do it.
Well, and then the other thing that Dwayne mentioned a few moments ago, and boy, am I on his side with that we'll get them bought up and then we'll pass them out to the various churches and everything. But there, I go back and say this again to you. I think that at this juncture, it shows that the pastors and ministers of all denominations are not doing their job in educating the congregation as to how vile and filthy our society is today.
Well, they have to let us know what we have to fight.
Amen. Linda?
In that respect, they'll be fighting the evil one.
I appreciate that. Linda, I always look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for standing up for our Christians, too.
God bless you, my dear. Thank you.
That's all, because you are one.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
I'll tell you what, there's parts of this story that I'm not even going to read on the air. I'm so incensed with this thing and this story about this so-called comic book. But I'll stand behind what I said, that if this thing comes out and hits some of the stores in this area, you let me know. Let me know. I can't be all over Magic Valley checking every store. But let me know, and we will start addressing the issue. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
You know, Zeb, I know several people that have never read a book in the Bible that profess to be Christians. And just think what this will do to little kids that haven't started to learn about Christ, that their parents have never taken them to church, and they know nothing about Jesus' history. It
It would be a devastating thing.
Well, Jerry, stop right there for a minute.
You can even think of printing something like this.
I agree.
It's wrong in every way. But it'd be like teaching kids it's all right to murder and to rape and to pillage when they're little, because that's who usually reads comic books, not adults. People with a mind that's got some knowledge in it. I can see where it would do a lot of damage in the future. And, you know, Satan's always looking for ways of tearing us down. And I think maybe he has found one.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think we can fight that with a little bit of knowledge. We just need to put it out where people can get it.
Jerry, I'm going to just say this, that in my audience, I know that we have a lot of God-fearing Christian people that are appalled by this kind of a story. But that doesn't do any good, just being appalled. We've got to have the churches and the church leaders start preaching and teaching about this from the pulpits. We've got a society of Satan right now, as far as I'm concerned, and it's getting worse every day. And I don't think you're going to disagree with that.
No, I won't disagree with you, but I don't want them giving me the news in church either. I want to learn about God.
Well, wait a minute. Stop right there. Now, there is where you and I are going to be opposed. You've got to talk about what's going on in society if you're going to correct some of society's ills. And when you have something like this filthy, sleazy comic book that denigrates and destroys Christianity, it's high time they got up on the pulpit and wrote sermons about it.
Well, I'll go along with you on that. Certain items we do need. But I do not want the news at church. I want to learn about the Lord. And if you read about him and you study about him, there's nowhere in history it said he cut anybody's head off or he murdered anybody. He raised people from the dead. He cured ills. He did good. He didn't do bad.
Well, I'll tell you something, Jerry.
And he died for our sins.
Absolutely,
to save us.
But to have this comic come out during Lent and to highlight Jesus as evil is as low as it goes, Jerry. Thank you for your call. I appreciate it.
I agree with you on that. It's a terrible, terrible thing. But we've got Congress people and people in our government that's way lower than that, and they preach against us every day.
Well, I tell you something. There again, we've got a lot of ills in this country, and I don't think there's any medicine to correct it. Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate your call. Thank you.
May the Lord
Thank
bless
you.
you and your whole audience.
I appreciate it. Calls welcome 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. What do you think about that? I mean, somebody's going to sit there and go, oh, well, it's just a comic book. No, it's not. No, it's not just a comic book. It's a complete denigration of our faith and our Christianity. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. Well, you know, it says in the Bible that we occupy till he comes. I have so many people that says, well, these are the last days, these things are going to happen, so just let it happen.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, that's a very defeatist attitude. In the meantime, we've got so many social problems, and we have to realize that when they took prayer and Bible reading out of public schools in the early 60s by the Earl Warren Supreme Court, I mean, and then we brought the Beatles in with the yellow submarines with the methamphetamines to bring in the drugs. Between those two decisions, this country has been in a free fall almost since then, and you can see the fruits of that every day. And as Christians, we better be standing up, and we're not doing a very good job. And we need, you know, right now you can teach Islam in the public schools nationwide, but you can't dare mention anything about Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
You know, we have a Christian heritage. The Supreme Court, you know, Zeb, ruled many times that we are emphatically, that's the word they used, a Christian nation. We were founded on Christian principles, and of course, as you know, the revisionists have tried to denigrate our founding fathers. They were all Christians pretty much, and they weren't deists at all. They were Christians, and they believed in the Lord Jesus Christ, and Washington and the rest of them set the example. But Everything now is just whatever, make it politically correct to fit the doctrine of socialism and all of the ills that goes with that.
Right here on my desk, right on this broadcasting table, a very dear friend, two very dear friends of mine, Dee and Patty Christensen, about 2 years ago, gave me a beautiful bronze of the prayer at Valley Forge, with George Washington kneeling in the snow with his trusty horse by his side, and George Washington is praying. And I really dare someone to call me or meet me on the street and tell me there wasn't God really in our forming of this great United States of America. I will get fighting mad over that, you can bet.
Well, Washington himself said that he cataloged 67 times that God, called providence is what they used the term, but providence, God intervened that we would actually beat the most strongest military force on the planet and they called his army a ragamuffin army, and that's what it was.
Yeah.
And yet, time after time after time, God intervened so that we could have this free nation and have the liberties. There's never been, you've mentioned this many times, there's never been a country in the history of the world like the United States of America. And we see socialists now wanting to destroy it. It just, I don't know about you, but it makes my blood boil, and I'm going to fight it until I'm in my grave.
Well, I agree with you. I will say this. I have on my desk also a little saying about, not regarding specifically the prayer at Valley Forge with George Washington, but I have an anonymous quote, and I've got to get to the weather after this, Adrian, but I'll just read it. Only when we have knelt before God can we stand before men.
Well, that's wonderful, yeah. And the Christian heritage that we have is just tremendous. Unfortunately, it's not being taught in school. We don't teach the Constitution anymore, so nobody knows. We don't have our whole system is now on sand, and like it says, you have a foundation of sand, you're not going to last. You got to have your foundation, your country on rock, and the rock is the Lord Jesus Christ and the Christian faith that we have. We need to stand up, get hold of our congressmen and senators, and ask them to obey the Constitution. They don't want to need to change.
I can't let you go. Adrian, I've got to cut in. I'm out of time, and I got to go, but I appreciate your call this morning, as always. I've got to give time for everything else, so I appreciate it. Call me back. I appreciate that. Thank you. I've got to run. Caller, I'll be right with you. Stand by. Don't forget, Ag Express is looking for drivers. Ag Express is looking for you. Had a nice visit with Russ a couple of weeks ago, and he says, hey, man, we've got great working conditions, full and part-time positions available. Retired folks are welcome to call. They're looking for people that want to work, absolutely, and they'll work around your schedule. You'll be home every night. Great benefits, medical and dental, vacations, all of this and more. Call Ag Express and find out more. I urge you to call Tony or Dale over in Paul at 438-5025 or in Burley, Chad at 678-4625 extension 1. Ag Express is looking for drivers. Ag Express is looking for you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, sir. Yeah, that story just broke my heart this morning. It made me think, how low can America go? It's a sad deal. I pray that there's good people that will stand up and defeat evil. But for evil to succeed, good has to do nothing.
Well, wait a minute. Right there you've summed up what my thinking is. You hope that there are good people, and you pray that there are good people that will help put this down and put it asunder permanently. Well, unless they're told, not everybody can hear this program, not everybody listens to this program, not everybody's going to listen to the news except from ABC, CBS, and NBC, and they're not going to say anything like this. Well, then it's up to the churches to get up in the pulpit and tell the congregation about this filth and try to correct it, and I'm not going to weaken on that.
I don't blame you. I'll stand right beside you, buddy. It's a sad deal, and in the book of Revelation, it tells you in the end that what's good will be bad and what's bad will be good.
You know, a couple of weeks ago, Doug, as a matter of fact, last week, I'm sure you heard him, I had Dr. Alvin Schmidt on my program. And he's regarded as one of the best-known American theologians. He's written like 12, 14 books, very highly respected. And he agreed with me that today churches are not doing the job to inform their congregation as to what's going on in the country that is absolutely trying to tear apart Christianity.
Exactly. The Muslims are coming in, and they're coming in step by step, like these couple that are in Congress now. I mean, they are totally against America. I don't understand how Americans can condone somebody swearing in on a Koran, which basically states death to America, how they can say they're going to uphold the Constitution of the United States when they don't even believe in it.
Yeah, and not only that, and I got to go to the weather forecast, but then for one of them, and that would be Omar, being appointed to the Foreign Relations Committee. My goodness, I wouldn't appoint her to the janitorial committee. And here she is knocking down and berating one of our best allies, Israel. I think she should absolutely be thrown off that committee. Look what they did to Stephen King a couple of weeks ago, and they took him and disbarred him basically from being the head of any committee or having any power back there. But the Democrats and Congress in general, including our own Mike Simpson, are too cowardice to speak out on this issue.
Very true. Very true. Mike Simpson is missing in action. The only time we hear from Mike Simpson is every 2 years, a couple months before the election, maybe a little bit before the primary, and that's it. We have no idea where he is.
Well, I know where he is, and I know what I think of Mike because of some of his comments to me 3 years ago that I never will forgive unless I'm given an apology. And for him to sit there and not speak out as a member of Congress about what's going on with the Muslim influence in Congress, especially from Ms. Tlaib and Miss Omar and also Cortez, I want to hear what he has to say, but nobody hears a thing because he's not opening up his mouth.
Exactly. He's got him a gravy train, and he's going to ride it as long as he can ride it.
I got to run. I'm late on the weather, buddy. I really am.
Yeah, and other Republicans back there need to step up. Even some Democrats are condemning her. They need to unite and get this person off of any committee and possibly out of Congress because of her hatred for America.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Quickly, Doug, I know you've got something to say.
You bet. Hey, everybody, let's do what we can for our senior centers. Let's donate to them. Let's help them out. Call them and ask them, hey, what can the community do to help you? And you'll be amazed. But the best classroom in the world is at the foot of a senior.
Amen. That's a very, very good way to put it. Doug, thank you as always, old buddy. Appreciate it.
God bless.
Thank you. Right now, time for the weather. Past time for the weather. Wheels is getting nervous over there. I want to remind you that Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, they have all kinds of knowledge to share with you about your loss of hearing or hearing problems. It may be something to do with your heart. It might have something to do with your possibly being overweight, or maybe you have high blood pressure or diabetes. Whatever the case might be, please, if you're knowing and understanding that you have a loss of hearing, contact them today for a hearing screening. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, right behind the Minidoka Hospital, across from the emergency room. Number to call, 312-0957. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Rain showers and the possibility of a thunderstorm. Here's a look at your weather forecast for this Wednesday. We are expecting rain showers off and on throughout the day. A possible thunderstorm or two in the afternoon hours. We are expecting a high of 49. Winds out of the east-northeast at about 10 miles an hour, switching to the southwest by this afternoon. Gusts as high as 24 miles an hour. Tonight, those rain showers are going to continue. Slight chance of snow showers, especially up in the higher elevations. Expecting a low of 35. 30% chance of rain showers for tomorrow. Mostly cloudy skies, high of 46. And then by Friday, possibly some snow. Expecting a high of 36. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zebeth Duran.
Thank you, Gina. I'm just really craving and waiting for a forecast that says, guess what? It's going to be beautiful with sunshine and 70, but I didn't hear any of that. Our weather brought to you by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Wonderful people serving you. They understand and know about hearing. Please give them a call today, 312-0957. All right, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, President Trump did something very, very nice. And a lot of people don't realize that he has done this thing before to many people. There is a man probably in his mid-30s that is dying from cystic fibrosis, and all he wanted to do before he died was let President Trump know how grateful he was that President Trump won the presidency and has started to turn things back around for the benefit of America. Well, the man's sister somehow got through to some of the powers that be and arranged, and President Trump called this young man at the hospital and wished him well. It was really a heartwarming story. But a lot of people, they'd rather come out and condemn and damn President Trump. But here's the human side, to where he took the time to wish a dying man best wishes. And I salute Donald Trump for those actions. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. About this church thing, you would think that these pastors would take advantage of the fact that they've got somebody in their corner, like the President of the United States, that will fight for them and give them the courage to tell things the way they are.
I agree. I am really afraid, from talking to theologians that I respect, like Dr. Alvin Schmidt back in Missouri, I am really concerned about the welfare of our church, the welfare of our pastors, the welfare of what they're teaching or preaching about, and I'm not real optimistic that they're going to make a change.
Well, look what we finally have getting a foothold in this country. Socialists, communists, and some people may even be Muslim terrorists in disguise.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
This country is going to hell in a hurry.
Well, I agree. And, you know, I've said on the air, and it was really kind of a shock to me. I thought I'd get at least one or two responses. I had one pastor call me from Twin Falls and agreed with me on my comments. Everybody else, every other ministerial position and or pastor never even bothered to call. I've opened the door to where they can come in my studio and have a complete segment. I'll give them an hour on our program to see what's going on in the churches and how they're addressing the ills of the community and how they can help. Nobody called. That leaves me to think that either they hate me so bad they won't call, or they're cowards.
Well, I think a lot of these people may be caving in to the feeling that if the Democrats get in the party, they're going to be out of business.
Could be. It could be. Tony, I always appreciate your observations, and I thank you, my dear friend, for calling. And you've got one of the sweetest little wives right over there at the kitchen table with you. Give her a great big kiss and tell her good morning.
Okay, I would.
All right, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right. I want to say a big thank you to our Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. They are our major sponsor, and right now they've got a great big spring tire sale going on to where you can save up to $200 off of a set of 4 tires depending on the tire size and the type. Hey, stop in today. It is a big spring tire sale at all 7 Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Along with that, the best of brake service and front-end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, all of this serving you for safe driving. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. The best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Got exactly a minute, caller. No more. Go ahead quickly.
Yes, I want to talk about that climate change. And a good rundown on it would be, take a look at Rock Springs, Wyoming, and the hills of there. It'll show you climate change.
Yeah. I'm not talking about climate change this morning, but I've never believed in climate change. The only climate change that's going on is a cyclical climate change with God's hand at the thermostat. I don't want a bunch of Democrats telling me they're going to set the temperature and or the climatic conditions. Caller, I've got to run to the news, but I appreciate your call. Call earlier next time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sorry, guys.
That's all right. Thank you. Hey, listen, folks, I've got to get ready to run to the news, but coming up next hour, we've got Dave Bigo, and then a gentleman by the name of Sargis Sangari, and then at 10:06, Dr. Michael Bustler, noted economist, and then at 10:30, we have Daniel Buttafuoco. Lots of good people coming up on Zeb at the Ranch right now. Wheels, take it away. Oh, good morning and welcome back. Hour number 2 on Zeb at the Ranch on this Wednesday, March 6th, and Ash Wednesday we are celebrating. And I urge you to remember that our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with a great big spring tire sale. Stop in and see them today. And don't forget, too, some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, without further ado, Wheels, can we hear about Western Waste Services?
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste.
Oh, my goodness sakes, yes, you call them today. They can help you with your garbage problems. I mean, whether you need those dumpsters in various sizes, or if you want to get on the route service, or if you want to talk to them about the Go Mini portable storage unit, so much they can help you with. I urge you to call 734-6969. That number again, 734-6969. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Want to also give a great big shout out and a thank you. And I can remember vividly the first day I talked to these folks about coming on my radio program. Nice people, and since then they've expanded their business, got bigger to serve more people. Dino's Septic Service, and boy, do they do a great job. I know, because we use those folks, and we were very, very satisfied. You will be too. Septic tank pumping and septic tanks and drain fields installed, water and sewer lines installed, liquid waste removal, all of this and more with people that really know their job. Dino's Septic Service, and the numbers to call 436-6526 or 678-1638. Dino Septic Service with the big truck that says smells cargo on the way. You call them right now. And one other organization that I really think the world of these people, because they are so good to other people. And that's Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert with Joel Heward and his family and staff serving you. You know, when there's the passing of a loved one, It's really a tough, hard time on everyone in the family. And Hanson Mortuary and Joel Heward and his staff always treat you and your family with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Please, for information on pre-planning of funerals, call them at 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary in Rupert and Joel Heward also serving you and your family at Morris and Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. Well, it is Wednesday, and that means I get a chance to talk to an old, emphasis on the word old, friend of mine back in Indianapolis, Indiana. Hello, Dave Bego. How are you?
I'm good, and wish you and all a happy Ash Wednesday.
Yes, thank you very, very much. Dave, I'm going to share with you an idea that I had. And I want you to tear it apart. You're the first one that's going to listen to my idea. Are you ready for it?
Well, give it a swirl. We'll find out.
A swirl? What are you eating, ice cream or what? A swirl?
I'm not eating anything.
Okay. Part of this idea came from Fox's Greg Gutfeld. The other part of the idea is mine. And I've combined them together, and I want to see what you think. I believe that with our senators and our congressmen with way too much time on their hands to sit there and devise little plots about how to go after Trump or how to devise more investigations and everything instead of working for the people, helping the economy, help people in general in their constitutional areas, I think what we ought to do is limit the Congress and the Senate to work only 6 months out of the year. And the rest of the year, they have to come back to real life and have their own jobs and supply their own income. And then the other part of my idea is to move these people away from the Potomac River. Get them out of D.C. and put the new Congress and senatorial headquarters in the middle of the country, like St. Louis or Kansas City or Des Moines, Iowa, whatever, so they really can feel and understand what America wants and needs. What are your thoughts?
Well, I agree with you that they should only work a certain amount of time and get back to the private sector and have jobs in that. And as I've always said before on your show, we need term limits. They only need to be there for 2 terms and get back out and get into the private sector and work and that so that their whole life isn't directed by what they make as congressmen or senators, politics in Washington, D.C. and that. As far as moving them out to the middle of the country, I hadn't heard that before. I'd have to think about that one a little bit.
Well, the reason I say that is because they'll be in closer touch, honestly, with reality. They'll be in closer touch with constituents. They'll be in closer touch with real America instead of the phonies and the looting left on the Potomac, which borders on the other side by the Atlantic. That's my thinking.
Well, you've got some good points there, you do. But I also know, I've been in Washington a lot, working on some bad bills years ago and things like that. And being able to bring different groups together and in Washington makes it easier. But I guess you could do some of them. I'll have to think about that one a little more.
Yeah, give it some thought because I don't see any change that would really incur to any groups or organizations. It's hard for various groups to plant or pick up and go back to the east on the coast to go through all the airports and all the travel time and everything to try to meet with their senators or their congressmen and support an idea. I honestly feel that a centralized location of where people can more readily get a hold of senators and congressmen and say, look, this is the problem. You're living right in the middle of it. Go look and see what it is.
Yeah. Well, I think you got some good points, and we definitely have to change the politics in this country and to get people back to doing things for America, not for themselves and their own pocketbook.
Absolutely. Wheels, turn Mr. Bego up when he's talking, please, and ride that gain. He's a little low. Dave, I want to ask you one simple question. Why is Congress in general both sides of the aisle, why are they being cowards in addressing the issues that have been put forth as troublemakers from the Muslim congresswomen that have been elected? Why are they not speaking out?
This is what's going on in Washington and around this country is, people want people to be nice to everybody and all that. They're afraid to address problems that are being caused that hurt this country and America and other people, and that we've been seeing it for a long time, and with this new Congress, it's getting even worse.
Well, why didn't they do the same treatment then to Stephen King from Iowa? They came down on him like a fly to a plate of milk, and they just absolutely destroyed his political career. How come they're afraid of the Muslims?
Well, it's because they define it as political correctness, but they talk out about both sides of their mouth, and they do it based on what they think they can do to get people elected and grow a bigger a group of people in Congress and in the Senate for the Democratic Party, and that's what this is all about. And at the end of the day, it's also about taking this country to a socialistic program. And AOC, she's big time on that, but she's a hypocrite too.
Can you give me one good reason? And I respect you as a businessman, an author, and just a person in general. Can you give me one good reason why today, this morning, right now, back in the halls of Congress, they don't demand that Omar is completely released from her duties on the Foreign Relations Committee after her absolutely heinous remarks against Israel and other things that she has done? Why can't she be released? That's the last committee that she should be on, as a Foreign Relations Committee.
Well, I agree with you 100%, and we're back to this political correctness stuff, and back to it's all about politics and elections and stuff like that. And they're looking at all this stuff, and how it would hurt them in the 220 election, and and getting voters and all that kind of stuff. And it's going on both sides of the aisle. And what we need people to do is step back and look in the mirror and do the right things and have some backbone.
Have you heard from your congressman as to any remarks involving this problem?
No.
I haven't heard from ours either, especially Congressman Mike Simpson for this area. He hasn't said a word. I want these people to start speaking up. What's going on in Congress and the Senate today, and I dare you to tell me I'm wrong on this, my dear friend, is that they have no backbone anymore. There's not anybody back there with any guts to speak up about what's right and wrong.
That's what I just told you. There's no backbone. And, I went through this stuff when I was back in, 2011, 2012, fighting the unions, the SIU, and their Employee Free Choice Act, which sounds good, but it was forced unionism in disguise and takes away employees' rights. Getting people, and I spoke to Congress, and I spoke to a Democrat or a Republican Party specific group, their leadership group, and I spoke to some Democrats and everything, and getting anybody to have some backbone was tough.
Dave, how can, and I don't know if you talk about this at all back in Indiana, but when you talk about the border, and you talk about our Border Patrol and our agents down there, they are being completely overrun and overworked right now. Last month alone, listen to this figure. This just astounds me. Last month in February alone, they apprehended over 76,000 people that were illegally trying to get into this country. Now, those are the ones that they apprehended. They aren't even able to tell the amount of thousands and thousands that got in here and are here now illegally. And then the Democrats can sit there with a kind of a dog bone eating smile on their face and say there's no crisis? What's going on here?
The big thing about people coming across the border, because they get a lot of these people in to vote, even eligible, they're not American citizens, they shouldn't be a vote. They get into the polls and they control some of the polls in different areas. And I've talked about this before. It's happened in Nevada and other states out there in California. and they let these people in and vote, and the majority of them vote for the Democratic Party because they're the ones that are bringing them across. And that's what they're doing this for, and the unions support it because at the end of the day, the unions want these people to be rounded up and unionized so that they get, they get them jobs, and unions get money for their pocketbook.
Okay, here we are today, March 6th, and can this, in your opinion, can or possibly will this problem ever be corrected? Or, as an American citizen, taxpayer, are we just going to throw our hands up in the air and say, it's over?
I think America's going to wake up at some point. I do. But we, as people like you and me and other people, we need to continue to wake people up to what's going on. Too many of these people, and I don't know if you saw, I think it was one of AOC's things where people were being interviewed on, I think it was on Fox, about socialism and that, and socialism is great, everybody should be taken care of and given this and that, and we think it's great now to have free school and free medical insurance, and one guy says, I don't even know what socialism means. I really don't care. I just want these things.
Yeah.
And we've been brainwashed by the left through our education for the last 30, 40 years, and it's time that we woke them up to what's really going on and what this really means.
But how do we do that? Dave, you can sit here and we can talk, you and I, Dave Bego, once a week on Wednesdays, and we hope that our audience is listening and going to do something and not be just sponges, and they're going to get up off the couch and be proactive in their communities. But it doesn't seem to be working. Unfortunately, most of the general public only gets their news from the dipsticks at CNN and NBC and CBS. How are we going to correct this mess?
You just have to keep getting out in front of people, and when we're talking to people here, hopefully they'll listen to us, and they'll go out and talk to these people. And I have to be honest with you, and I've sat down and talked with some of these people on that and exposed it to them, because, again, this is the same kind of stuff that the SEIU did against us with our employees and, clergy people and politicians and other things. But when you sit down and talk to them and you really go through the facts with them and open up the door, they tend to wake up, and this is what we got to do.
You mentioned Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and I got to tell you, I'm 71 years old. I think you and I are basically the same age. Have you ever
I think you're a little bit older.
Yeah, but I knew you were going to say that. But have you ever in your life watched anything as absolutely outstanding? And I use that word because here is a 29-year-old girl that knows nothing, has accomplished nothing, is doing nothing, and she's got the Democratic Party by the nose. Explain that to me.
Well, you may think she's got the Democratic people by the nose, but I think there's a lot of them behind the scenes that are looking to get her out of office, and because they understand that if you take it too far, they're going to lose votes because people are going to just start shying away from them. And I think it's going to be interesting where this goes in the next few weeks here.
Yeah, but wait a minute, though, my friend. It's not just her. It's others of her ilk. It's Kirsten Gillibrand. It's Kamala Harris. It's Tlaib and Omar. It's a whole passel of women that for some reason are like lemmings, and they are buying into the same philosophy that she has.
Yeah, I know. But again, we just have to keep pushing back and have a backbone, and we have to, at the end of the day, we got to expose them and the real truths, and expose that these people don't know what they're doing. And on top of it, you look at AOC, she was actually first time she's run for office, was using money, campaign money, for her own benefit and businesses and stuff like that. And so she was cheating behind the scenes. And these are the things we got to keep exposing.
Yeah, and it was really funny. She was walking through the airport. I think it was Dulles Airport. And a reporter walked up and asked her about this channeling of funds from a political PAC action committee into a private corporation. And she got really bug-eyed, which she's good at, and said, well, I had nothing to do with it. I don't know what's going on. I thought everything was okay. Oh, give me a break.
Yeah, but people wake up to that kind of stuff because they start realizing that, yeah, these people don't really know what they're talking about, and they're just out there and they're blabbermouths, and that's what she is right now.
Well, one thing I wanted to say this morning is there was a heartwarming story. I commented on this in the first hour this morning, that a lot of people don't hear about, a lot of people won't hear about it because the general news media is not going to carry it. But there was a dying young man. He's about 35, 36 years old, dying in the hospital with cystic fibrosis, and it's not good. The prognosis is possibly at the most maybe 4 to 5 months more. And President Trump took the time and the effort to call that young man in the hospital and wish him well. Those are the stories you'd never hear about Donald Trump.
Yeah, and they should be, because those are the things. He cares about people, and he cares about this country. And is he perfect? No, none of us are perfect, but he's moving us in the right direction, and I still think he's going to get a lot of support for the 2020 election.
You know, that leads me to my last and final question for this week. When you look at all the Democrats that are throwing their hats in the ring, or some that stood there at the edge of the ring with their hats and decided to put them back on their head, like maybe Joe Biden and Bloomberg, etc., what do you think? Have they put forth anybody yet, in your opinion, that even looks presidential?
No, and I think they got a real problem in that area. And that's why I think we're seeing all these cards thrown out on the table, and it's going to be interesting to see where it goes.
But right now, I would tend to agree with you that if the election were held, let's go 3 months, I think that President Trump would absolutely win in a landslide because of what you said earlier. There's a lot of breaking in the ranks of Democrats. There's a lot of the political analysts of Democratic Party that are looking at the Ocasio-Cortezes and the Tlaibs and the Omars and even the Kamala Harrises and are saying, whoa, if we stay on this trail, we're going to get thrown off the horse.
That's exactly right. And I think that, again, we just need to keep waking people up. And every day when you're talking to people that don't understand that yet, help them get there, but do it in a nice way.
What would you say today, last question, what would you say to Jerry Nadler of New Jersey, or Adam Schiff of California, or others of their ilk, if you had a chance to have them come into your office today and they were railing and yelling and screaming about more investigations for Donald Trump? What would you say to these people?
I would settle them down and say, you need to take a step back and think about this and what's right for this country and the world, and that we're doing the right things, not what you think should be done to Donald Trump. And I just go through the business practices with them, so it would take a while.
How much time do you have, Bigo? Listen, my friend, I appreciate always having you on the air every Wednesday. God bless you, and we'll look forward to next week. Dave Bigo, Indianapolis, Indiana, thank you so much.
Sounds good. God bless you. Have a great Ash Wednesday.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it. A dear friend, and I mean that, Dave Bigo. Want to remind you about some other dear friends, and those are the folks over at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland and Burley. Oh, my goodness sakes, they've got a rival day after day. They're getting more carpet and vinyl flooring and the planks, you name it. They've got it coming in. Why, they've had to oil the big doors to keep everything coming in and out, coming in and out, coming in and out. There you go. New shipments of almost everything, and they've got huge special going on mattresses right now, 50 to 75% off. Are you kidding me? You'd better get in and talk to them about your comfort and the beautification of your home at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. 459 Overland and Burley. You go in and see Jeff and the crew right now today. By the way, too, I want to tell you about our great friends over at Let's Ride. Oh, boy. We started talking about snow machines way back in November. Well, we had a lot of snow. There was a lot of fun outside in the sun and the snow this winter. But right now it's time to think about spring. It's time to think about getting your four-wheelers serviced if you have four-wheelers and getting ready to get outside and enjoy more of beautiful Idaho. If you don't have a four-wheeler, holy moly, you'd better stop over. They've got a showroom full of them at Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 over in Rupert. Yep, number to call, 436-4771. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays, 9 to 4. Wow. It's time. It's time to get ready and think spring. Stop over to Let's Ride, where the fun is sold. Really good, folks. Let's see. I've got one other little note that I need to get on the air this morning, and I had it in my hands. Here it is. Bingo! Bingo at the Minidoka County Senior Center. I believe they're having bingo weekly. Now, they did not tell me what days they're going to be playing bingo. I-22, N37, or whatever. But if anybody knows the dates exactly of where everybody's going to be like a horde of locusts going through the doors trying to get set up for bingo, let me know at the Minidoka County Senior Center. Okay? Right now, we're going to go back to the phone line, and one of our great guests for today, and we've got a whole passel full of them, is a gentleman that has never been on our program before, and I'm looking forward to hearing his comments. He is the CEO of the Near East Center for Strategic Engagement, and I'm going to say his name, and then I'm going to let him correct me if I say it wrong. Mr. Sargis Sangari. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, guys. Good to be here.
Did I say the name halfway correct?
It was absolutely perfect.
Well, you made my day. Thank you, sir. You don't mind if I call you Sargis by your first name, do you?
No problem.
Okay, sir. Tell me a little bit about your involvement with the Near East Center for Strategic Engagement. Tell me more. What does that mean, and what do you do?
Well, I had spent 20-plus years in the U.S. military, U.S. Army Infantry, and Special Operational Forces, and retired in 2014. And September 11th, 2014 was when we established the Near East Center for Strategic Engagement in honor of the 3,000 Americans that were murdered on our soil. And we have been a strategic think tank that has also been operational, and part of the operations that we have conducted were in support of the Christian Assyrians that were fighting against ISIS during their genocide in Syria and Iraq from 2014 to 2017. We supported the force structures in the fight for the Syrian army. And we have also supported, as far as taking lessons learned from the effects of IEDs that were used in both Syria and Iraq, and supported Ravens Challenge Asiana, where we train actually multiple different nations that come in on a yearly basis and train on how to counter IED capabilities that the enemy has used. In the process of being a think tank, we've also given advice for both administrations, previous and the current, at the National Security Council level, at the Office of Secretary of Defense. We have supported CENTCOM on certain operations during the Syrian Army operations, and we've tried our best to make sure that the U.S. policy in the region is effective when it comes to what we're trying to do as we go forward under the current and the future administrations.
Let me ask you this, Sargis, and I hate to sound like I'm naive on this, but if someone calls you, your office, or any member of your organization, what do you tell them that you can do, you being an entity? I mean, what do you try to provide? Do you provide manpower? Do you provide logistics? I mean, basically, what do you do?
The biggest piece we do is give him advice on how to link the haves with the have-nots. Now, physically on the ground, we support at the strategic level. As far as the pieces that come in to support that, in the case the certain army operations, we'll take that as an example. They already formulated on the battlefield when they were fighting. We came in and we just kind of focused them in the right direction, working with their command structures in order to be able to support. And even during the Mosul operation, clearing operation, I was physically on the ground myself. So we try our best to have a small signature, but with that small signature have effects at the strategic levels to a point that we can teach the U.S. systems that you don't need to have an overwhelming capability. You could rely on the folks on the ground to allow them, empower them to do what should be done by them anyway.
Okay.
Which is to protect and secure their future.
Sargis, let me ask you this, and I hope you'll give me a really good answer on this, but we have seen in my lifetime many presidents and a lot of different foreign policies. I like the approach, I'm going to say it up front, I like the approach of looking them right in the eye like the Trump administration is comparable to what Obama did not do. What are your thoughts? Am I wrong? Is this administration doing a better job in protecting and providing more security, or what are your complaints or pluses? Tell me about that.
I never look at any decision made as a positive or a negative decision. As I've said to policymakers, it's just a decision, but you have to understand there's effects behind it. Well, one piece I do think that the current POTUS is successful as far as his approach is concerned is he doesn't play games at his level. The problems we have is that within the systems and how they're structured, based on U.S. code and how our foreign policy is structured based on what Congress does, it makes it difficult sometimes for us because the president can say one thing, but the system may not support that. And because of that, from the both friends and enemy side of the House, they look at it as U.S. playing too many games. Instead of maybe sometimes working with the right actors on the ground, they work with them to an extent, but they spend also the same amount of time working with the bad actors. So it causes a lot of confusion amongst our allies, especially if they want to help us. The problem is, as an example, if you take Congress, Congress is a 2-year foreign policy for us. Person wins in November. They are seated in their position by January, between January 5th, maybe 13th. And then by January 20th, the party that lost is already running somebody against them, filing the first filing chapter in April of that year as far as the first filing quarter for what they're raising to run against that person. Then you have the calendar that is divided into 2 calendars. So what Congress makes a decision on in the first half of that calendar, and they say we're going to do this program, they may not even authorize the money for it on the second half of the calendar. And by October of that same year, the person just took a seat in Congress. So they're already running in their primaries for next year. So it's very difficult for U.S. to have a long-term policy because of that.
You know, here I'm sitting in southern Idaho, Sargis, and I have no idea. I don't think anybody in my audience has any idea as to how volatile or what a gunpowder keg is over in the Middle East. How dangerous is the Middle East today as compared to 5 or 10 years ago?
It is the maturations of a possible future global conflict. That's how bad it is. And until we are able to support a much more coherent foreign policy, that means that we don't attack the current POTUS with what he's trying to do overseas. We support him, help him out, move forward. I think you're going to have a lot of issues. Look, the current world advances faster than the previous ones, and technology has helped us out that way. But as what used to work maybe 40 years ago on a foreign policy side doesn't work today. The unfortunate piece is that the world overall is much more divided, is in much more conflict. The resources that are out there are limited, or if they're not limited, they're only shared by a few, which is causing a lot of the problems, especially in the Middle East. Take a look at the Christian Assyrians. I use them as an example. They're the original inhabitants of the region. They're much more apt to think like us, work with us. When we supported their army operations, we did it through a 501c3, United Assyrian Appeal, which we raised money, gave to the military families, and then the fighters were able to fight, sustain themselves. For a small capability like that, sometimes we come in and don't support them. And if we do anything, we support Iran. And instead of becoming a democratic nation, establishing an Islamic constitution which marginalizes those individuals. So those are the issues that cause some of the problems that we have to deal with today.
Sargis, I'm going to say this, and I urge you to tell me I'm wrong if you wish, but looking at the Middle East and looking at the countries of not exporting anything of value except oil, and then when oil is seen to be taken away from a major export basis to various countries because we now, the United States, are the major exporter with all the resources we have, is that fact going to create more of a tinderbox with those countries in the Middle East?
Well, it does, but the way it does it, you got to look at it from a link analysis perspective. That's one thing we try to teach through our Near East Center, which is it's not just the oil in the Middle East. What happens with the oil in the Middle East is tied to what Russia does in the Southern Caucasus, what China does in Burma, as far as really being involved with the massacre of the Rohingyas that is taking place through its major companies. It ties to how Saudi goes to Pakistan and actually supports some of the tensions between Pakistan and India because it wants to be the leader of Islam, which is going to affect what we make decisions on when it comes to Venezuela. And what is the final outcome there, given the fact that oil and gold of Venezuela really are the main drivers behind the decisions we make as far as what type of economic future agreements we reach with China and what are the effects on Russia, which allows us to maybe have some more leverage on not just Venezuela but Cuba. So these are all tied together. It's not that it's a separate issue. And, you know, if you think about it, when we come up with these ideas of new green economies for the future, we really are not looking at the entire globe as far as how the system is so fragile that if we really push hard on it, we could collapse, and in the long run it will lead to a larger conflict for us.
While you were talking, I'm sitting here in my mind's eye, Sargis, and I'm seeing a great big checkerboard. And I'm seeing the black checkers and the red checkers and the moves that need to be made to be successful. And I'm sitting here thinking that our talks that we just had recently in the last couple of days, President Trump with Kim Jong-un of North Korea, and how that checkerboard also plays a big part in relationship with Iran and the Middle East. How in the world can any country, us being the country I'm talking about, how can we keep up on how to keep everybody happy and not let the tinderbox blow up?
It's not about keeping everybody happy. You have to do what is to the benefit of the United States. But if you do it in a way where you're coming from a straight-out direction, even your adversaries understand that because they will do the same thing for their nations. As an example, you know, China has billions of individuals living in it. As large of a mass it is, population-wise and geographically, of course China would like to be a lead on the world stage. As long as we understand those nuances, we can still work with these type of adversaries. I take an example in Iran. When the Trump administration put the sanctions against Iran and left the initial agreement, we still kept a port open in Iran, which allows India and Iran to develop the port to be able to push a rail system into Afghanistan, which is the reason why it's allowed us to now bring the Taliban to the negotiation tables in Qatar, which is also a problem as to why Pakistan not only conducted attacks through its surrogates in Iran, but also into India, because it's a jockeying internally between these countries trying to make sure that they have a standing at the end of the day when the final contract of the peace of this peace or functional peace is designed for the Middle East, which should be for another 100 years, just like the Sykes-Picot agreement was between the French and the British 100 years ago. But through this process, we just have to do what is right to ensure that the systems that currently the globe is operating under are functioning to the benefit of at least the most of the individuals.
Right.
And if we do that, I think America is a global leader for centuries, not just for decades. And that's where we need to make sure the members of Congress work together for the betterment of the United States, support each other, and not spend their time on useless arguments that are doing nothing for us to be able to give us a lead in the future of what is going to happen on the global stage.
You know, Sargis, I'm going to make a supposition here, and again, tell me if I'm wrong, but I would imagine with your expertise in knowing and understanding how volatile the Middle East is, you probably cringe when you hear members of our own Congress start criticizing Israel and condemning Israel because they are our main ally in the Middle East. What are your thoughts?
They're not just a main ally, they're a enduring partner for us, and we have to understand that. A strong Israel means a strong United States. I don't understand why that is not understood. Without Israel, we would have absolutely no footprint in the region. The individuals that we have in the region outside of Israel might be our allies, but they're not enduring partners. They'll take our money, but their heart will never belong to us. And we have to understand those realities. If we understand those realities, then we would not be criticizing the state of Israel for being a democracy. Look, in 5 more years, it's possible that a Muslim Palestinian can become the mayor of Jerusalem. Where else would that have been possible in any other structures and the other states that surround Israel? It wouldn't. So individuals in Congress who do not understand that have a very small, low-level, non-strategic concept of foreign policy. Unfortunately, those individuals are actually put in committees sometimes, and they're the ones who are the decision makers on how the U.S. policy progresses in the future.
I want to tell you how much I appreciate your taking the time to come on my program this morning, and I certainly hope I can have you back in the future. It's been very educational for me. This gentleman, Sargis Sangari, the CEO of the Near East Center for Strategic Engagement. Sir, I wish you the best, and thank you again for coming on my program.
Thank you. Much appreciated. And again, for the listeners, if they do want to help us out, one of the biggest things for us is we still support the Syrian Christians in both Iraq and Syria through the United Assyrian Appeal. So if they ever want to help and contribute, we're a 501c3, and that helps us to keep the roots of Christianity alive in the Middle East.
Very good, sir. I appreciate your making that remark. Thank you so much. And again, God's blessings to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, sir. I really enjoyed having him on the air. And we had to wait quite a period of time to get him in a schedule so that we could have him. This man knows exactly, from literally having boots on the ground in all these countries, how serious and how volatile the Middle East is. And he is a strategist that has worked with all aspects of many, many different administrations. And to have him on the program, it lends a credibility as to what we know or think we know about the Middle East. His name, again, is Sargis Sangari, and he's the head man of the Near East Center for Strategic Engagement. Thank you very much. Wow. Right now, we're going to have a weather forecast on, and our weather, and then following that, we'll take some phone calls. So give me a jingle. Our weather brought to you by Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And, of course, they've been providing accounting services to the Mini-Cash area for well over 50 years. As a matter of fact, I think we're going to have Lyden Crane on our program tomorrow. He's going to be calling in. Looking forward to that. And I want to remind you that they are really the professionals that can help you with your tax return preparation, tax planning, business consulting, retirement planning, financial statement preparation, all of this and more. I told you they're the best. I told you they are the professionals. Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company, with offices in Burley and Rupert. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Rain showers and the possibility of a thunderstorm. Here's a look at your weather forecast for this Wednesday. We are expecting rain showers off and on throughout the day. A possible thunderstorm or two in the afternoon hours. We are expecting a high of 49. Winds out of the east-northeast at about 10 miles an hour, switching to the southwest by this afternoon. Gusts as high as 24 miles an hour. Tonight, those rain showers are going to continue. Slight chance of snow showers, especially up in the higher elevations. Expecting a low of 35. 30% chance of rain showers for tomorrow. Mostly cloudy skies, high of 46. And then by Friday, possibly some snow. Expecting a high of 36. That's what's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina. And like I said earlier on the previous weather forecast, please start having some sunshine and warmer temperatures. Okay, well, the weather brought to you this hour, as they do every day, Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. The best of accounting services to you. Maybe you're starting a business or a partnership, or maybe you want to hire more people, expand your business. You've got questions. They've got answers to help and serve you. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company, with offices in Burley and Rupert. All right, your turn, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I told Deanne the other day when we were watching the news, I told her at CPAC when the president finished his speech and he went over and he hugged the American flag, I said, you know what? Some loons on the left are going to come out in the next couple of days and criticize the president for hugging the American flag. And guess what? The loons on the left did not let me down. I could not believe they called it flag groping. Unbelievable. I just can't believe everything that this president does. And I dare you to give me an instance where they don't. Everything this president does, whether it is hugging the American flag and saying, God bless America, I love America, or having the slogan, Make America Great Again, and I'm going to keep on saying it on this program, we all should make America great again. Every single thing this president has done for the economy, every single thing he does in all facets of the job of being president, he's going to get raked over the coals and criticized. I just not long ago with Dave Bigo related a story about how President Trump called an individual in the hospital that is terminal with cystic fibrosis, and he wished him well. Now, President Trump didn't arrange to have that news story put out. As a matter of fact, the man's sister is the one that really promoted the fact that President Trump called her brother at the hospital room and wished him well. I thought it was a great gesture. But mark my words, and he's done it before and never once mentioned it. Other people have said, well, he's done this before, to call people he doesn't know and wish them well. Mark my words, the left is going to come out, and you know as well as I do that they will say it's nothing more than a political ploy using this as the presidential advantage to get a leg up for the 2020 run. I know that's going to happen. I know that's going to happen. And he went over to the flag the other day at CPAC, put his arms around the flag and says, God bless America, I love America, and the left is going nuts. They're calling it flag groping. Whew. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I didn't like Obama. I made no bones about it. I detested the man and his ideology. Didn't like him at all. But never resorted to this kind of pettiness day by day and the slanderism that they're using against this man and his administration. This is unbelievable. If he all of a sudden says, well, let's go to lunch, what would you like? Well, I'd like to have a cheeseburger. They're going to get him. They're going to get him. No matter what the man does or what the man says. The other night he welcomed, I think, oh my goodness, I'm going to be wrong on the school. I think it was North Dakota State University won the 1AA football championship. And President Trump treated them the same as he did the 1A championship right at the White House with a great big dinner, which consisted of what these people eat, fast food. He had Chick-fil-A and McDonald's and all kinds of goodies there. And he's taken heat for doing that again. When you think about health insurance, retirement planning, and employee benefits, who do you think about? Well, I'll tell you who you ought to think about and who you really should give a call to for an appointment. And that's Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Oh, they are dedicated and responsive to your needs, very accessible, and they want to serve you. That's the key right there. They want to serve you. All you need to do is pick up the phone, make a call, 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Really nice people. I got time for one quick call. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Oh, by the way, I was doing a little research the other day on wasted money. Wasted money in government. And believe me, there's a lot of stories. Listen to this real quick. I got to read this to you. It'll knock your socks off. The Obama administration pressured the Pentagon to becoming a testing ground for green energy initiatives, and it wasn't very cheap. The Government Accountability Office reported that between financial years 2007 and 2014, the Pentagon purchased about 2 million gallons of alternative fuel for testing purposes at a cost, listen to this, of $58.6 million. Over the same period, it purchased about 32 billion gallons of petroleum fuel at a cost of about $107 billion. In other words, listen to this. Alternative fuel was approximately $29.30 per gallon as compared to conventional fuel costs of $3.35 per gallon. They love to spend our money. They love to waste our money. And there is a story I'm going to save because it just shows you how ridiculously expensive green energy can or maybe will be. Ay, ay, ay. Oh, my. Well, we're out of time for this hour. Coming up next hour, we've got a gentleman that I just absolutely love having on the show, and he's going to be talking about how stupidly expensive the Green New Deal is with Cortez and her not very bright ideas. Dr. Michael Bustler is going to be on the program, followed then at 10:30 with Daniel Buttafuoco, and don't you go away. Zeb at the ranch, and right now we'll turn it over to Wheels and be back in about 7 minutes. Oh, here we go. We made it into the last lap of our race this morning. Zeb at the Ranch, and we're brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with a great big spring tire sale going on. And, of course, some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. You know, my next guest, I absolutely enjoy having him on the air because he spreads some common sense around economically, and we're going to introduce him right now. Good morning, a professor of finance and economist. He knows what's going on. Dr. Michael Bustler, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Zeb. How are you? It's always my pleasure to be here with you.
Well, you've got to help calm me down a little bit because over the last period of time, I've been ready to poke holes in the wall and break windows and pick up a Hillrig Bradsby baseball bat and everything else. The Democrats want me and you to pay for everything. That includes, and I'm going to go down the list, and then I want you to respond, free Medicare for all, free universal kindergarten care for all, free early child care, free college tuition, free universal income for everybody, free vacations for everybody, free leaves of absences from the businesses, free reparations for all impacted by slavery, free nutritional breakfasts, and free high-speed transit for all. There, it's going to be a great utopian society, Doctor.
All of those free things, it doesn't mean the people that are providing them are working for free. You want free education, but you still have to pay the teachers. You want free health care, but you still have to pay the health care provider. So when you say free, you mean free for people that don't want to or can't pay for it, which means, as you mentioned in the beginning, the rest of us not only have to pay for ourselves, but also pay for all those people who, for whatever reason, aren't paying for themselves. Economists have tried to put price tags on this, and some of the numbers I've seen are just astronomical, into the trillions of dollars. I saw one study that said this would cost the average household about $65,000. So all of this is really unsustainable. It's something we can't do, and worse yet, it's against the principles that made this country great. You know, if you take a look over time, the U.S. went from being a brand new country in 1776 to the number one economy and the most powerful country in the world, the highest quality of standard of living in about 150 years. Now, and there were countries that were hundreds of years older, some thousands of years older, and they didn't do that. My view is the reason that occurred, there were four values with regard to the economy that were evident during that time period. One was the concept of individual freedom. People were allowed to pursue their dreams. They were allowed to do things, and the markets were all free also to seek their normal equilibrium. So individual freedom. With individual freedom, number two, comes individual responsibility, where people were primarily responsible for their own welfare. Thirdly, we had low rates of taxation. And indeed, part of the reason the country was started in the first place was the high rates of taxes that were being paid to England. And fourthly, limited role for government. Government provided just the basic, what we call public goods, police protection, fire protection, defense of the country, a legal system, etc., public goods, and really did little else. With all of that, the economy was able to grow from nothing to the most powerful and prosperous in the world in 150 years. This whole New Green Deal and everything you just rattled off is exactly opposite to those principles. You're going to lose individual freedom because the government's going to tell you they're going to take over education, they're going to take over health care, they're going to decide who gets what and when. So you lose individual freedom. The government's going to take care of you, so you lose individual responsibility. In order to pay for this, they're going to have to raise taxes not just on the wealthy, but all of us who are earning income, so high taxes rather than low. And lastly, instead of a limited role for government, you have an expanded role for government. It will stagnate the economy, and will end up in who knows how bad a situation could be, simply because there will be little incentive for people to work, because the government will give you everything for free, and if you do work, they're going to take most of what you earn. As a result of that, it would stagnate the economy and go against the principles that made this country great.
You know, Dr. Bussler, we have a caller with a question, but I want to say this before we go any further, and I want you to, in turn, correct me if you disagree with me. I don't think it's a program, when you add these all together, of the government taking care of you. I think it's a program designed for the government to treat you as an expendable item. Because once they have that much control over you, you're expendable, whether it's from the birth or the elderly in the rocking chair. The government wants control, and I think once they get all that control, you are expendable.
Especially with health care. So the government will make decisions. Somebody's 80 years old, He's got a disease. The government may say, well, look, even if we spend a lot of money to cure the disease, you've only got another year or so anyway, so we'd rather spend the money on somebody else. So I agree with you completely.
Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I've got a comment. You know, it's the same people wanting to pass universal health care that wanted to pass and did pass abortion after birth.
Okay.
You want these guys taking care of you when you get old.
Absolutely. Jerry, I appreciate your call on this, and I think Dr. Bussler agrees that we're seeing a kind of a hemlock society that's expanded from not only the elderly, but now to the other end of the spectrum, to where we're seeing the absolute infanticide and murder of full birth babies being killed. Your thoughts, Dr. Bussler?
Control of every aspect
Yes.
of our life.
Absolutely.
You will have no freedoms. None.
Right. And they're done. And that's exactly the way socialism operates. Just to get some technical definitions, in capitalism you have private ownership of property and market control of prices, distribution, etc. In communism, you have no private property, public ownership, and public control. Socialism is private ownership with government control. And that's what they're shooting for. As you just mentioned, complete government control of as many different industries as we can. Even if this doesn't go through, and I certainly hope none of this goes through, we still have problems with the social programs that we already have. For instance, big news lately, the public debt, the accumulation of all deficits over time. The public debt is now up over $22 trillion. That exceeds 1 year's GDP, and once that happens, you start to get nervous, especially considering that there's no plan really to get the annual deficits down. The reason it's so difficult to reduce the deficit, the government will spend $4.4 trillion this year, the federal government will spend. 2.7 of that 4.4, roughly 60%, goes to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. So, and if any politician says, look, I'd like to look at these entitlement programs and try to reduce the cost, it's political suicide. So they're afraid to touch 60% of the budget. That leaves only the other 40%, which includes the military debt on interest on the public debt and everything else, which becomes very difficult to cut. Any of these socialistic programs, expanding Medicare, education, etc., will simply add to that deficit, make the public debt even worse, and will drive the country to bankruptcy.
Dr. Bussler, you've been on my program many times in the past, and I consider you a friend to this program. So please bear with a plain, simple old cowboy when I ask this question. I cannot get my mind wrapped around $1 trillion. I can't even fathom what it looks like, what it would feel like, etc. As an economist, would you please explain to me in some kind of a graphic what $1 trillion is, so I can then say, holy buckets, to 22 or $23 trillion in debt? I have no idea what this means.
Yeah, you know, when people throw around millions and billions and trillions, and it's really hard for everybody to get their hands on this. $1 trillion means if I was going to hand you $1 million check, I would have to hand out 1 million of those $1 million checks to get to $1 trillion.
Wow. Holy cow. And the Democrats,
the
Democrats,
$22 trillion in debt.
But then when you talk about the new Green Deal that is being promoted and fostered by certain Democrats, like the new little girl that's never done anything, only thing she's good about is being a cheerleader for socialistic ideas, and that's Cortez. When you start talking about $93 trillion for a new Green Deal and totally eliminating fossil fuels, they have no understanding about not only the jobs that would be lost, the businesses that would be ruined, but what about food production? There wouldn't be any food production. The whole world would be starving.
And how would you transport things from the farm to the table? She doesn't want any fossil fuel, so there's no trucks. Somehow you'd have to develop, I guess, electric trucks to run. So the whole transportation system would collapse. How you would get to Hawaii, for instance, without any airplanes is a very difficult thing to do. I guess boat is the only way to do it, and that's extremely slow and inefficient. So aside from the astronomical and cost, just the practicality of this, the system wouldn't be able to function, and it's all being done because Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is convinced that if we don't do this within 12 years, the Earth is essentially going to end because of climate problems. Now, look, we're all very concerned about breathing clean air and what the environment is. However, I don't know if you recall, but in the early 1970s, the scientists said within 50 years we're going to have an ice age.
Yes.
Now, had we acted on that, here it is 50 years later, it's exactly the opposite. Climate is changing. There's no doubt about it. Climate has been changing every year for thousands of years. That's why there's deserts where we once had fertile areas and vice versa. So the climate is changing. We know that. They claim that the climate change is due to human activity. There is no scientific, now they'll dispute this, but there's no conclusive scientific reasons to explain why that is true. In other words, it's not definite science that the human activity is contributing to climate change. So she wants us to drastically change all of our activity and pay an enormous price for something that may have very little effect on climate change at all. And secondly, even if we do all that, what about China and India and the rest of the world?
Absolutely.
They're not worrying about this. Even in the Paris Accord, which I believe was a good thing President Trump did not agree to, but even in that Paris Accord, China didn't have to do anything until the year 2030. So AOC is worried about the Earth ending by 2030, and they were ready to sign an agreement where China wouldn't do anything about it, at least until 2030. I believe it's a serious problem, and we should look at it, but we shouldn't overreact to it and destroy the entire economy for something that may not be 100% accurate.
Well, it's not 100% accurate, and I'm going to stand up and say with all the reading and all the very scientific people I've had on my program, we are seeing a trend, a cyclical trend, if you will, that began about 7 or 8 years ago with a cooling trend and a colder, much colder atmosphere being thrust upon various parts of the United States. Right now, we're looking at record snowfalls. Right now, we're looking at record low temperatures. Right now, in the contiguous 48 states, we're looking at a severe weather pattern that has not been this cold for 30 or 40 years. And yet these people say they want their hand on the thermostat. God help us all.
Yeah. You brought up a very key word, cyclical. And if you look back over time, this has been going through cycles. You'll get somewhat of a warming trend, and then, as you mentioned, you get a cooling trend, and then back to a warming trend, and that's the way these cycles tend to run. To overreact when you're at the peak of a cycle or the valley of a cycle, to overreact to that is causing far more harm than any benefit you would get out of this. This whole idea of drastically changing everybody's lifestyle and our whole economy because we may be contributing somewhat to climate change is ridiculous. And since this whole thing is cyclical, there's no reason to overreact to any of this. And the proposals that they have would do just that.
Absolutely. We have another caller with a question. Go ahead, caller, quickly. I've only got limited time.
Yes. You know, at one time, Greenland, which is colder than Iceland, they grew grapes there, and they have proof of it. And this is way before they had man-made supposed global warming. And yes, it is cyclical, and there's not a thing we could do about it to change it anyway. And the truth of the matter is it's nothing more than a way to control us with carbon taxes and credits and proof, a reality of what happened in the past means nothing to these people. They have no logic, they have no sense of history, and they couldn't care less whether or not it's global warming, economy, or anything. I'll hang up.
Respond to the caller, please, Dr. Bustler.
I just want to say that was extremely well put. You're right. Just as we've been saying, if you look back in history, these things are cyclical, and they're intelligent enough, I think, to know that. So you really have to question what their motives are. And as your caller, I think, rightfully said, they're really just looking for a way for the government to get more control. They want to be part of the government, so it's them who wants control of us.
You know, Dr. Bustler, I got to ask you, you're back in New Jersey, and you're right around the herd mentality of stupidity with the Democrats and AOC and others. How come, let me ask you this woman of 29 years of age that has never done anything, never accomplished anything, never written any great books, never really has done anything. How come, and I've asked another person on my program this question this morning, why and how come the Democrats are following her like lemmings over a cliff? Why?
I think it goes back to the fact that they still haven't accepted that they lost the 2016 election. They're doing everything they can to get President Trump out of office, and even when the Mueller report comes out and clears him, they're still going to try to get him out of office. Well, they believe if they're not going to win through the courts and impeachment, which they're not, then they think, well, the best way to do this is to come up with an agenda that's so far removed from Trump that anybody who doesn't like Trump will flock to that. Look, she's an attractive woman. When you look at her and you watch her speak, you believe that she is sincere, and I think she is sincere. In all due respect to her, she just doesn't understand what's happening. But people follow it because she says, hey, look, she was elected. She sounds like she knows what she's talking about. And it's somebody we can follow that's a never-Trumper, and that's very attractive to people.
We have another call quickly, and I'm down to the last 3 minutes. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go.
Yes, good morning, Zeb, and good morning to your guest. Under the political situation we have right now, and there's no controlling it, do you feel that this country is going to be divided into many different countries in the future?
That's a good question. Dr. Bustler?
That's an excellent question. I don't know if I never outgrew this, but I still tend to be very optimistic about things. When things get bad, somebody always seems to come to the forefront with ideas that make sense, and before a disaster hits, the country ends up going to where it should be. I think Donald Trump is one of these people. We were heading in a terrible direction. President Trump has been able to reverse some of this, and I think he'll be able to do that. I believe he's going to win another term, too, and there's a lot of variables between now and November 2020. But I think he's going to win, and having 8 years of economic prosperity will ruin people's appetite for socialism. The reason it's popular now is that we've had economic stagnation for so long. We haven't had 3% growth since 2005, although we came close this year finally. Haven't had 4% growth since 2000. The result of that is not a lot of opportunity for people, and that's what's getting them angry and starting to look at socialism with some appeal. As the economy continues to grow, and I think we're going to grow more this year than we did last year, as we continue to grow and people find opportunity, they'll be able to take care of themselves and prosper in this economy, and I'm hoping that will get rid of a lot of this talk of socialism before we run into some of the drastic problems your caller mentioned.
Just a real quick answer to this. One of the comments that was made by Kamala Harris, and she's running for the nomination possibly for the Democratic Party, she said that the new Green Deal, it's not about cost. It's about a return on investment. Now, I'm not an economist, but I'll tell you this much, Dr. Bustler. When I make an investment, I expect a return on my dollar. I don't expect to go broke.
Yeah, this is not an investment. There's a difference between investment dollars and expense dollars. This is just going to run up more expenses for us. It's not an investment. It's more expenses. And even if some of it goes to investment, it will be investment that won't bring any return at all. President Obama invested $500 million or so into solar energy. It didn't do anything. The market wasn't ready for it. He tried to push it through, and it didn't work. These are not investments. These are expenses. Secondly, even the part that are investments, you have to have the capital to be able to make investments. And with the size of the numbers they're talking about, there's no way we can raise that much capital to take care of all these things. A very poor example she gave.
Absolutely. This man has been a friend of this program for quite some time, a public policy analyst, economics expert, and a professor of finance, Dr. Michael Bustler. You are welcome here anytime. Thank you, my friend, for sharing with us this morning.
Zeb, it's always my pleasure to be here.
God bless. Thank you so much. I could sit and listen to him all day long. He absolutely lays it out in a very easy-to-understand terminology, and I like him. Dr. Michael Bustler on the economy on Zeb at the Ranch. Thank you very much. Oh, let's see. I want to remind you about what's going on over to Patterson's. 421 East Main in Burley. Curtis, Lorena, the whole crew. Oh, my. If you're going to get a little bit of cash back on your tax refunds, well, then I know what you could do. Treat yourself for once and go on in and check out a complete sound system. They've got all the car stereos and the speakers, and they've got home theater systems for you to just sit back and enjoy. They've got all your electronic needs right there at Patterson's at 421 East Main in Burley. And I urge you to stop in Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6. Really, really good folks. They've got home security systems, all the televisions by Samsung, Sony, Toshiba, all of this and more at Patterson's, 421 East Main in Burley. You stop in and see them today. Right now, we're going to send it over to Wheels. I'll be back in about 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
And welcome back to our last half hour, and we're going to get right into it. There's a gentleman that I had on my program, I think about 3 months ago, talking about his book, and the book is entitled Consider the Evidence. A trial lawyer examines eyewitness testimony in the defense of the reliability of the New Testament, written by Daniel Buttafuoco. I was impressed with this man and wanted to have him come back on the program. Good morning, Daniel. How are you?
Thank you, Zeb. It's good to be on the show again.
Trial lawyer and being a Christian, and today that seems almost like an oxymoron. Explain why you wrote the book, and was it difficult?
Well, you know it's getting bad out there when God is using personal injury lawyers to preach the gospel. This is sort of a quandary. Well, look, here's how it works. I mean, first of all, as a trial lawyer, as an injury lawyer, I only get to pick the cases I want, and I pick seriously injured people who are injured all over the country, and I represent them, and we do well in rebuilding their lives. So I don't have a problem with that and being a Christian, but I've always been a strong believer. And, you know, about 25 years ago, I got into a debate with a fellow lawyer, a guy who I was trying cases against, and it was at a party, a cocktail party at his house, and the party split in two where people were sort of cheering me on, cheering him on, and we've made friends over the years. And you know, well, I left the debate, I left the party sort of feeling that I didn't really do as good of a lawyerly job as I could have to defend the Christian faith, you know, and I really had a lot of holes in my belief system, and I didn't really know why. I couldn't really defend as well as I would have liked why I believed, you know, the Bible. I mean, really, the whole Christian faith hangs on the New Testament, and you know, if you defend the Christian faith, if you defend the New Testament, rather, you defend the entire Christian faith, because these things are eyewitness testimonies of the life, the ministry, the death, the burial, and the resurrection of Jesus, which, Of course, if that's true, everything makes sense. If it's not true, then basically we're all following a lie, and the Bible is the biggest fraud ever perpetuated on mankind. So there's really no middle ground. This is either 100% accurate or it's nothing. And, you know, the Bible claims to be the Word of God over 2,000 times, which means, begs the question, it either is or it isn't. So these are important questions, and, you know, I started to get into this. I ended up in the process, I got a master's degree in theology. I studied under Ravi Zacharias, who wrote the foreword for the book. And I started to realize there's tons of evidence, tons of legal evidence, good evidence, solid evidence you could use for the Christian faith, and that most people today don't know about it. Whereas maybe 100, 150 years ago, we were able to defend the faith against objections. Today, the Christian faith has sort of kind of been reduced to a feel-good emotional experience one gets in church, and basically then creates a Jesus of their own liking, and sort of, you know, cafeteria Christianity, will take this but leave that. And as a result, you have a church that's not so committed, and we're losing the culture.
Absolutely.
Let's look outside and see how the world is going. We're adrift because we're no longer moored to the Judeo-Christian ethic. So I thought it was worthwhile to defend the faith and give reasons for why we believe this stuff. And I think I've done that.
Wow. That was a great dissertation. I want to go back, though. I want to go back to that night at that cocktail party. I want to go back to the confrontation that both you and this other lawyer had in being believer or unbeliever. What is the unbeliever's major argument against God, his son Jesus, the creation, everything? What's their major gripe against the Bible and the way that it's been formed?
Well, that's actually a really great question. You see, he's a defense lawyer, and he operated in the discussion much like a defense lawyer. And a defense lawyer doesn't have to prove anything. I noticed that in my cases. You know, I have these great cases where people are injured, and I'm trying to basically get them justice. They can't work. They need money to live, and clearly people have hurt them, and it's not their fault. But defense lawyers don't have to prove anything. They just have to chip away at the plaintiff's case. They have to discredit the plaintiff's case. And that's the strategy that always happens in court, whether you're representing a person in a product liability case or a malpractice case or even a simple car accident. The other side just chips away at your proof by raising objections and by raising questions. And that was the style that he took, you know, in terms of debating me. He didn't really have anything. I mean, his worldview, you know, this is what we need to do when we talk to people. We need to have them defend their worldview. It's always the Christians being put on the defensive. I'm like, so you have to start asking people, well, you know, if the Bible's not true, then what is?
Yeah.
What is your highest good? What are you living for? What's the main purpose of your life? What, to just collect money and have as much fun as you can and then die? I mean, is that really the full meaning of your life? And what happens is, once I was able to answer his questions, and this is now over a 25-year period, we're still very good friends. He literally came to me, and this is his exact words. We were having dinner. I love this guy, too. And he says to me, he goes, Dan, you have literally destroyed every one of my points. He says, you're still not a believer, by the way, because that's a question of the heart. But I've taken away all his excuses not to believe. And I think that's what we can hope for. We're not going to convert people. That's not our job. That's God's job. We're not going to change the heart. Again, that's not our job. That's God's job. But what we can do is take away their excuses and sort of rip the veneer off of these nonsensical objections that they raise to the Bible. And they are. Some of these things are just plain stupid. And, you know, when you have some information at your disposal, you very quickly defend the faith and point out the holes in their argument. There's lots of great evidence for the faith. I mean, more than I could even put in this book. I have material for another book.
Daniel, let me ask you this, and I want to have kind of a shotgun approach here. I've got a lot of questions I need to get in about the next 9 minutes. But I have been very critical, and if you think I'm wrong, I want you to go ahead and lower the boom on me and tell me I'm wrong. But I've been very critical of pastors in the ministerial profession because I don't think, in general, I'm not saying all, but I'm saying in general, I don't think they're getting up at the pulpit and really informing the congregate members of respective churches about what's going on in society today, the ills of society, and how we, through being Christians, can try to make them better. I don't think they're doing that job.
Let me just say that I agree with you 100%. In fact, that's one of my beats. I joked earlier about God using lawyers to preach the gospel. The problem with pastors, and this is really sad, and look, I come from a family of pastors. I'm not down on pastors. the pastors, by and large, are doing a terrible job of defending the faith and upholding the truthfulness of the word. See, if it's not true, we shouldn't follow it, right? But if it is true, we have to follow it. And so what's happening, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, you walked into a room, the pastor was the most educated guy in the room. He was the smartest guy. He studied philosophy. He studied science. I mean, the first genetics was amongst Gregor Mendel. For hundreds of years, the Christians were the most educated, most intellectual people. About 150 years ago, Christians abandoned the intellectual realm, and they relegated Christianity to a feel-good religion. And consequently, we don't have too many smart people out there defending the faith, and that's sad. And, you should lower the boom on them. They need to up their game because the culture is going to hell in a handbasket. And you know what? We need to start defending what we believe because there's a lot of competing ideologies in the world, and there are very good reasons to believe the truth of Christianity. And there aren't very good reasons to believe other religions. A lot of them are based on myth and fantasy and just plain weird ideas. But we have to say these things, and it's become politically correct to even say them. But I don't want to be politically correct. I'd rather be right.
Absolutely. Let me turn this to another part of what I wanted to ask about this morning. Not ask about, but I think you and I can share the same values. In the last couple of weeks, I've been absolutely mad to the point where I wanted to address any one of the Democrats, whether it's Schumer or whether it's Pelosi or Durbin, anybody, and ask them right face-to-face, nose-to-nose, how they could be so absolutely inhumane and support abortion at birth and not consider the baby whatsoever. It's nothing more than murder and infanticide, and nobody is going to change my opinion.
Well, you know what? If you have no values and you just care about votes, then really anything goes. So there you go.
You've touched on it, but can we change this? I'm looking at, and you know better than I would as an attorney, we're looking at almost a hemlock society, like I've said many times, of no respect for life at birth and no respect for the elderly sitting in a rocking chair. It's turning into a real hemlock society on both ends.
Well, once you become detached from the source of all values, which is God himself, he's the source of all morality. We did not invent this morality. It was given to us by revelation. And once you detach yourself from that, you think you can create your own morality, then whoever's strong makes the rules. Whoever's in power makes the rules. And they're in power, they've got the votes, and they make the rules. And sadly, the fetus can't vote. And so really, this unimaginable evil becomes possible because we put people in power that have no moral moorings. It's horrible.
Absolutely. We have a caller with a question for you. Caller, go ahead, please, quickly.
Well, when we choose to avoid reality and social issues in politics, we create a void. The void will always be filled by evil. And evil, doesn't always appear to be evil. But, abortion is the most evil thing on earth, and these people cheer for their new, legislation. And a governor from Virginia talks like it means nothing to birth the baby and then decide whether or not they're going to kill it. I read in the paper yesterday that a young man shook a 2-month-old baby, and he has multiple felonies. Well, a doctor that aborts a baby or kills a baby, whether or not it's partial birth or abortion period, he's going, a special place in hell would be a good thing for them. I'll hang up.
Respond to the caller, please, if you would, Daniel.
Yeah, well, he's 100% right, even though he's angry, and I understand why he's angry, because if we start cheapening life at a medical level, then why then do we have the right to put somebody in jail who beats up a 2-month-old baby if it's his girlfriend's baby and it's crying in the middle of the night and he just beats the living daylights out of it? That goes on. Why then on what basis can we prosecute that person? If life is so cheap, well, let's be consistent, And so this is a problem. I mean, these people have no morals. The most innocent of all beings is a newborn child. The most unprotected of all beings is just about to be born fetus. It needs nurture and it needs care and guidance. And here we are, we're just saying it's like a useless piece of garbage that we can discard. and we wonder why there's no value of life in society as a whole. We have to elevate life. Life is too important. Scientists, for all their knowledge, can't create life. Right? We can put people on the moon, but we can't create life. So we have to start looking at this a whole different way. And, look, I understand the issues with women and with their bodies, and it's horrible, and I don't pretend to be a woman. God bless them, may God give them grace. But when these things happen, they have to be thinking about more than just their own bodies, because there's another body growing in them, and that's a human being. And, for whatever reason that happened, and you know what? You just can't kill it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Daniel, I don't know if you're aware of this situation or not. I was just informed of it early this morning at 4 a.m., but this is one of the most heinous and gross things I've ever heard about. There is a new comic book that is coming out this month of March during Lent that is called Jesus Freak, that is going to depict Jesus Christ as the savage killer who beheads enemies with a sword. This is a comic book geared for children that is going to be released nationwide. This is one of the most disgusting things I've ever heard.
Yeah, well, if they tried it with Muhammad, you'd see how fast they would regret that, because, you can make fun of, you can't make fun of anybody, but it's open season on Christians, And I think that's the other reason why Christians are going to have to stand up. They're going to have to take their Bible seriously. They're going to have to take their faith seriously. They're going to have, the pastors are going to have to up their game, learn some basic apologetics, explain to the congregation why we believe this stuff, explain why this is true. And the other fact is, Christianity is part of it is a life of sacrifice and a life of putting up with conflict and difficulty. It's not all fun and games the way the televangelists present it. Your best life now, and just give me money, and look, everything's going to be great, and you'll have first-class seats on an airplane, and, God's just going to shower you with endless blessings. You're never going to have trials, tribulations. That's not how life works. So we have unrealistic expectations. We have bad theology. We don't follow the Bible. We're not teaching the Bible. And we have no reason, and people don't know why we believe the Bible. We're in pretty bad shape, I'd have to say.
Absolutely. Now, let's get back to the book, Consider the Evidence. What's the book doing? Has it been all that you wanted it to be? What are the successes of the book, Consider the Evidence?
Well, Consider the Evidence is sold out twice on Amazon. I preached in a church this last Sunday. I sold over 100 copies. We ran out. I can't keep it in stock fast enough. And we printed this. We self-published this book because, I don't have any background as an author. I mean, lawyers can write because that's what we're trained to do. But, no publisher would have touched this. So I did this myself. And I'm shocked at how well it's doing. And people are buying book cases of it. They're handing it out because it's defending the faith. And also, I wrote it in a very readable way that the average person can understand it, because I didn't want to write a scholarly book that no one's going to read, that it's going to sit on a shelf. I want people to get basic understanding, everyday people, as to why we believe the truth of Scriptures. And as I said, there's lots of good evidence. We just have to know it.
Daniel, what about the outlets? Is it at all major bookstores?
No, well, the bookstores haven't really caught on yet because, to get shelf space, it's a little tricky. But it is on Amazon. It's also on ConsiderTheEvidenceBook.com. It's also at the HistoricalBibleSociety.org, and it's going to probably be in the Bible Museum in Washington, D.C. fairly soon in the bookstore. And, as it catches on and as people are asking for it, and I encourage people to go into bookstores and ask for it, Consider the Evidence by Daniel Buttafuoco, the trial lawyer in New York. I think then that the bookstores will wake up and they'll start buying them in bulk and putting them on the shelves. I was recently interviewed by Eric Metaxas, so it's starting to get some headway. I think soon I'll be on Fox and maybe CBN. I don't even know. I'm getting a lot of calls, so we'll see.
I wish you the best of success. Thank you so much for sharing with us again on our program. Daniel Buttafuoco with the book Consider the Evidence. Thank you, sir. God's blessings to you.
God bless you too, Sam. God bless you.
Thank you. I enjoy having him on the program, and I personally need to get a copy of this book and read it, have him back again. Consider the Evidence. A trial lawyer examines eyewitness testimony in defense of the reliability of the New Testament. Daniel Buttafuoco. If anybody needs to get any information about the title or the person's name, just give me a call after the program. Okay, oh my, weather time. Weather by Scarrow's Meats. Don Scarrow and the crew at 331 North Road, Jerome. And if you want to find out more about all the great meats at Scarrow's Meats, go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com. Or you can give them a call at 324-7657. I mean, we're talking marinated pork ribs, we're talking about tri-tips, we're talking about all the bratwurst. I love brats. Did you hear that, Don? And, of course, all the bacons and the sausages, all of this and so much more at Scarrow's Meats. We'll tell you more in a few minutes, but right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Rain showers and the possibility of a thunderstorm. Here's a look at your weather forecast for this Wednesday. We are expecting rain showers off and on throughout the day. A possible thunderstorm or two in the afternoon hours. We are expecting a high of 49. Winds out of the east-northeast at about 10 miles an hour, switching to the southwest by this afternoon. Gusts as high as 24 miles an hour. Tonight, those rain showers are going to continue. Slight chance of snow showers, especially up in the higher elevations. Expecting a low of 35. 30% chance of rain showers for tomorrow. Mostly cloudy skies, high of 46. And then by Friday, possibly some snow. Expecting a high of 36. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zebeth Duran.
Thank you, Gina, and brought to you by Scarrow's Meats at 331 North Road, Jerome. Absolutely delicious. 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat, one, like I said, delicious bite at a time at Scarrow's Meats. Earlier this morning, we were talking about money wasted by the United States government. Listen to this. And when I read this little story yesterday, I could not believe this. The government has lost, our government has lost 39 Black Hawk helicopters. Now, these helicopters weigh in at over 10 tons each. 10 tons each. But last January, the Defense Department said, they told Congress, we lost them. We don't know where they are. The Air Force identified 478 structures and buildings at 12 installations that were not in its real property system either. So they're losing buildings that we've spent taxpayer dollars on, and they lost 39 Black Hawk helicopters. The obvious question is, how do you go about losing? Just absolute, I misplaced it. Where in the world did I put that helicopter? Weighing in at 10 ton? This isn't just something you hold in your hand. And our government lost 39 of them, plus 478 structures. They don't know where they are, they don't know what they built, and they don't know. How do you lose that stuff? All the more reason why we need more competent people, if we can find them, in Washington, D.C. $10,000 toilet seat covers, $1.4 billion with a B for health research that would have cost far, far less. But you lose 39 Black Hawk helicopters? Unbelievable. Now you know why I'm upset. Don't forget there's a big spring tire sale going on at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Holy cow, they didn't lose their tires. They know where they are. Big spring tire sale at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All the top tires, all the tread designs, and you can save a lot of money. I'm not kidding. This is the time to get in there, save money, get the best of tires at their spring tire sale. The best of brake service, front and alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, all of this at all 7 locations. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Absolutely the best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Caller, I've got exactly a minute. Go.
Well, I can see losing your keys, your phone, or your wallet. I've even misplaced my car in my younger days. But a helicopter?
39 of them!
Oh, 39 of them?
39 of them!
Wow.
No, it's not wow, it's holy buckets. How do you lose, first of all, a helicopter, let alone 39 of them? And then how do you forget where you built 478 structures and buildings and you don't have them where they are? You don't remember. I mean, how in the world can we run a government like that?
Well, yeah, government, they promote you to a level of incompetency, and that's where you stay.
Okay, today, Doug, lock the door, leave, please, and get out of Hayburn, and I want you to find at least half of those 39 helicopters. I want you to report back in the morning.
I'll do my darndest.
All right, see you then.
God bless.
Holy cow. You misplaced and lost 39 helicopters? I gotta go. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:06. Zeb at the Ranch, where we always say the way things were, the way things ought to be. The world needs more cowboys. Please go find the helicopters. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:06.